And I'm very, very fortunate and happy to have two of my racers here. They're from Camden, Ryan and Jess. And yes, Jess is a girl. And Jess is a racer. And Jess is a national champion racer on a Yamaha R6. Now, you're wondering what this is? This is the front body work off of a Yamaha R6 racer, off Ryan's bike. Ryan races in our AMA Pro Supersport class. Jess races in Wira, which is kind of a feeder class. So, and they've got some posters and swag to give away if you want to visit with them afterward. But one of my jobs with AMA Pro, in addition to being a chaplain, I'm occasionally a pit marshal. So I'm standing there getting ready to turn a road loose, and I'm looking up and I'm seeing four of these things staring at me, and they're ready to go into open throttle and come hard at me. Now, you think I'm in a big hurry to get out of their way? You betcha. I won't get run. But seriously, for the last several years, I've had the privilege, and I call it a privilege, and high honor, of being Motor Racing Outreach's chaplain to AMA Pro Road Racing and to the Weird National Series. Now, what does a chaplain do? What does a race chaplain do? Well, I'll tell you what a race chaplain does. I want you to imagine everything that Russell does here at Red Bank United Methodist Church. Everything Russell does. Except, I don't have four walls around it. We don't have the four walls of the church building. I do all those things. I say, there's a team of us. We do all these things in a race paddock. Or in a pit road, in the paddock area, at the O'Charlie's after supper or after the race day's over, in the mornings. We do them in a race setting. We do chapel services. Sometimes, we do maybe 3 a day sometimes, don't we, Ryan? Because we have so many people and we have so many schedules. But we end up doing, I think in New Jersey, we end up doing 4 because each different class had to practice at a certain time, and in order to have time for everybody to have a chapel service, we had to do 4. So Russell gets to preach twice a day. Sometimes I get to preach 4 times on Sunday. And in those services, they're very short. They're 8 to 10 minutes. But we do what we can to create an environment for folks who want to go to church to be able to come to church. We do Holy Communion once a season, once a year. I've had the privilege of baptizing 2 different racers who made commitments to Christ during our 7-year run with them. We have a AA meeting or an ARC Anonymous or whatever, 12-step meeting. AMA approached me about that about 5 years ago. They called me. Our offices are in Daytona. NASCAR owns us. NASCAR owns AMA Pro Racing. And they called me from Daytona a few years ago and said, we got some folks in the paddock who are recovering alcoholics, but they don't want to go roaming through the city where we race to find a meeting. Will you host a meeting? Well, sure. What's the chaplain's for? But to serve. So we host a meeting for those in recovery. And one of the funniest things we've ever had in that meeting, in the second year we had a gathering of about 7 of us. And if you've ever sat in on an AA meeting, everybody goes around and calls your first name only, and you say, I'm addicted to such and such, and I'm here. This one guy just really tickled us good. He said, my name is such and such, I'm addicted to alcohol, sex, narcotics, you name it, I'm addicted to it. And everybody in the place just laughed because they understood. They've been there too. And some of the best experiences of faith we've had have come out of that 12-step meeting. We were racing in Finion, California 4 years ago. We were having our AA meeting up on the hillside behind the paddock area. One of our men had been in recovery for 29 years, another had been in recovery for 18 months, and he was struggling. The younger one was really struggling with his recovery. The older man reached over and put his arm around the younger man and said, just trust the Lord. He'll get you through it a day at a time. I tell you what, I didn't have to preach much that weekend. Preaching was done by the older gentleman. Also, earlier this season, about last January, I got a phone call from several guys in Team Yamaha, which is our main factory team. They said, will you start a Bible study for us? I said, sure. So we started a Bible study, and we based it on Disciple 1 study, the Gospel of John, where we looked at especially the first couple of chapters of John's Gospel. But that was a good study. We would meet at the end of move-in day, Thursday night. We move in on Thursdays, and after move-in day, we would gather in someone's paddock area. We would have Bible study. Then one night we met at Cracker Barrel in Alabama. But we meet on Thursday nights, and Friday we practice and qualify. Saturday we race, Sunday we race. Sunday night we go home. And then we repeat it again at the next venue. So that's our ministry to this community. It is a ministry that I enjoy doing. It's very unusual. It's more like missionary work than anything else. I'll tell you a story of a young racer, and then we'll get back to music or whatever Kevin wants to do for an intermission or whatever. But about 4 years ago, during Daytona tire testing, we're not doing that this year, unfortunately. But we had Daytona tire testing in January. One of our young racers came up to me. This person had been in church as a child, had gotten away from it, wanted to come back. And this racer came up to me and basically said, would you help me study the Bible? I'm a disciple Bible study teacher. Duh, yeah. So I walked with this young racer through the scriptures for an entire year. They would call me from where they live in California about once a week, kind of monitor what the study was. When we get together at the track, I check in with the racer and say, how you doing? And if you have any questions. To make a long story short, a year ago in June, this racer called me right before we were ready to go to Laguna Seca for our around there in Monterey, California. The racer said to me, I'm ready. I said, what are you ready for? I said, I'm ready to be baptized. I give my life to Christ. So we baptized her in the cold Monterey Bay. But that's one of my favorite stories of how God is working in this ministry. How God, whenever I go to the track on Thursdays, my first prayer is, God, get me out of your way so that you can do what you want to do here. And God is working in the ministry. Now, I also want to tell you, before I get back to singing, I want to tell you something you all did for me back in July that you don't know you did. Have you ever noticed that on weekends that I'm not here, Caroline is here, and then when you all get up to sing, when the road do the Irish thing, Caroline will pick up her phone and call. She's calling me. And my phone will ring, and I will be, wherever I am, I'll be going, where the road rides to meet you, may the wind blow at your back. At the end, my hand goes up, and people look at me going, that chaplain's nuts. What's he doing? But before that, on that particular weekend, I was struggling really hard because I had to be away on that trip for 3 weeks. I was gone for 3 straight weeks, and I was homesick. I missed Caroline. I missed my church. But when Caroline called, you all were singing the invitation hymn, and it was, I, the Lord of wind and rain, I have heard my people's pain, da 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 da. And the words, whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. I'm getting choked up thinking about it. I was listening to you all sing that, and as I was listening to it, I was nodding, thinking to myself, yeah, I know why I'm here now. And you all helped me do that. You all didn't know that, did you? And then it was, may the road rise to meet you, and then I was ready to go back to work. But I want to thank you all for that, for ministering to me and helping me get my head back in gear on that July Sunday when I had to be away from home and Caroline and everybody for 3 weeks.